Hello and welcome to our class reader. There's a boy in the girls' bathroom. I am going to be reading the book for you in chapters in threes, or maybe I might read a chapter a day. We'll see how we get on, but I hope you enjoy. You can listen to me as you're reading the book, or you can pause the video and you can continue on wherever you like. I just want to give you the option as well in case you prefer to listen to me reading. So at the beginning, we're going to look at chapter 1, and we are starting with Bradley Chalker sat at his desk in the back of the room. Last seat, last row. No one sat at the desk next to him or at the one in front of him. He was on an island. If he could have, he would have sat in the closet. Then he could shut the door so he wouldn't have to listen to Mrs. Ebel. He didn't think she don't mind. She'd probably like it better that way too. So would the rest of the class. All in all, he thought everyone would be much happier if he sat in the closet. But, unfortunately, his desk didn't fit. Class, said Miss Ebel, I would like you all to meet Jeff Fishkin. Jeff has just moved here from Washington, D.C., which, as you know, is our nation's capital. Bradley looked up at the new kid who was standing at the front of the room next to Miss Ebel. Why don't you tell the class a little bit about yourself, Jeff? Urged Miss Ebel. The new kid shrugged. There is no reason to be shy, Miss Ebel said. The new kid mumbled something, but Bradley couldn't hear what it was. Have you ever been to the White House, Jeff? Mrs. Ebel asked. I'm sure the class would be very interested to hear about that. No, I've never been there, the new kid said very quickly as he shook his head. Okay. Mrs. Ebel smiled at him. Well, I guess we'd better find you a place to sit. She looked around the room. I don't see any place except I suppose you can sit there at the back. No, not next to Bradley, a girl in the front row exclaimed. At least it's better than in front of Bradley, said the boy next to her. Mrs. Ebel frowned. She turned to Jeff. I'm sorry, but there are no other empty desks. I don't mind where I sit, Jeff mumbled. Well, nobody likes sitting there, said Miss Ebel. That's right, Bradley spoke up. Nobody likes sitting next to me. He smiled a strange smile. He stretched his mouth so wide it was hard to tell whether it was a smile or a frown. Oh, poor Bradley. He stared at Jeff with bulging eyes as Jeff awkwardly sat down next to him. Jeff smiled back at him, so he looked away. As Miss Ebel began the lesson, Bradley took out a pencil and a piece of paper and scribbled. He scribbled most of the morning, sometimes on the paper and sometimes on his desk. Sometimes he scribbled so hard his pencil point broke. Every time that happened, he laughed. Then he taped the broken point to one of the gobs of junk in his desk, sharpened his pencil and scribbled again. Okay. His desk was full of little wads of torn paper, pencil points, chewed erasers, and other unrecognizable stuff all taped together. Mrs. Ebel handed back a language test. Most of you did very well, she said. I was very pleased. There were 14 A's and the rest B's. Of course, there was one F, but... She shrugged her shoulders. Bradley held up his test for everyone to see and smiled that same distorted smile. As Miss Ebel went over the correct answers with the class, Bradley took out his pair of scissors and very carefully cut his test paper into tiny squares. When the bell rang for recess, he put on his red jacket and walked outside alone. Hey, Bradley, wait up, somebody called after him. Startled, he turned around. Jeff, the new kid, hurried alongside him. Hi, said Jeff. Bradley stared at him in amazement. Jeff smiled. I don't mind sitting next to you, he said. Really? Bradley didn't know what to say. Oh, wow. I have been in the White House, Jeff admitted. If you want, I'll tell you about it. Bradley thought a moment, then said, Give me $1 and I'll spit on you. Okay. Chapter 2. Oops, hang on. There are some kids you can tell just by looking at them who are good spitters. This is probably the best way to describe Bradley Chalkers. He looked like a good spitter. He was the oldest and the toughest looking kid in Miss Ebble's class. He was a year older than the other kids. This was because he had taken the fourth grade twice. Now he was in the fifth grade for the first, but probably not the last time. Jeff stared at him, then gave him $1 and ran away. Bradley laughed to himself, then watched all the other kids have fun. When he returned to class after recess, he was surprised Miss Ebel didn't say anything to him. He figured that Jeff would probably tell on him and that he'd have to give back the $1. He sat at his desk in the back of the room, last seat, last row. He's afraid to tell on me, he decided. He knows if he tells on me, I'll punch his face in. He laughed to himself. He ate lunch alone too. As he walked in from lunch, Miss Ebel called him to her desk. Who, me? He asked. He glared at Jeff, who was already sitting down. I didn't do anything. Did you give my note to your mother? Asked Miss Ebel. Huh? What note? You never gave me a note. Miss Ebel sighed. Yes, I did, Bradley. In fact, I gave you 2 notes, because you said the first one was stolen. Oh, that's right, he said. I gave it to her a long time ago. Mrs. Ebel eyed him suspiciously. Bradley, I think it's very important for your mother to come tomorrow. Tomorrow was parents' conference day. She can't come, said Bradley. She's sick. You never gave her the note, did you? Call her doctor if you don't believe me. The school has just hired a new counsellor, said Miss Ebel, and I think it's very important that your mother met her. They already met, said Bradley. They go bowling together. I'm trying to help you, Bradley. Call the bowling alley if you don't believe me. Okay, Bradley, said Miss Ebel, and she let the matter drop. Bradley returned to his seat, glad that was over. He glanced at Jeff, surprised Jeff hadn't told on him, and he scribbled. As he scribbled, he kept thinking about what Jeff had said to him. Hey, Bradley, wait up. Hi, I don't mind sitting next to you. Really, I have been to the White House. If you want, I'll tell you about it. It confused him. He understood it when the other kids were mean to him. It didn't bother him. He simply hated them. As long as he hated them, it didn't matter what they thought of him. That was why he had threatened to spit on Jeff. He had to hate Jeff before Jeff hated him. But now he was confused. Hey, Bradley, wait up. Hi, I don't mind sitting next to you, really. The words rolled around in his head and banged against his brain. After school, he followed Jeff out the door. Hey, Jeff, he called, wait up. Jeff turned, then started to run. Bradley was faster. He caught up to Jeff at the corner of the school building. I don't have any money, Jeff said nervously. I'll give you $1 if you'll be my friend, said Bradley. He held the $1 Jeff had given him earlier. Jeff slowly reached out, then grabbed it. Bradley smiled his same twisted smile. Have you ever been to the White House? He asked. Yes, said Jeff. Me too, said Bradley. He turned and ran home.